Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Curtis Maloley, as it says on the screen. I'm the Director of Teaching Development and Digital Learning. Esther Ignagni, our Executive Director, is going to be joining us about halfway through the session. She's tied up at another meeting, but I'm here with my colleagues Jason and Zara, who are both critically involved in this program. And our partner, Grace-Camille Munroe, Dr. Grace-Camille Munroe is joining us today, and you'll hear from her and how all these grants came to be. I'll just tell you really quickly what the agenda is. It'll hopefully be fairly quick. We'll do an overview of the Black-Focused Pedagogy Grants, what they are, what they're designed for. Zara and Jason will lead you through an overview of the application process, and then we can answer any of the questions that you might have at the end. So with that, I want to turn it over to my dear friend and colleague, Grace-Camille Munroe.
Hi, and thank you so much, Curtis, Jason, Zeta, for hosting this information session. The partnership with the BSI and CELT goes way back, all the way back to even before we were officially an entity, which I'm pleased to state as of October 20th, 2025, the BSI is now fully institutionalized at the university. Yes. But there's a long journey which has brought us here, one of which got started in the Anti-Black Racism Climate Review that was done back in 2020. For those of you who are familiar, that climate review had some very disturbing findings. One in particular, that anti-Black racism was a characteristic feature of life and working here at TMU. The president then followed in response to the report with the establishment of the Presidential Implementation Committee to confront anti-Black racism, which was the body that was tasked with implementing the 14 recommendations that emerged from the report. The recommendations were categorized in three particular themes: that for student, faculty, and staff. The Black-Focused Pedagogy Fund and the BSI actually emerged out of the faculty working group, a working group which was responsible for implementing the 6 recommendations under that stream, 2 of which was the establishment of a learning hub that would be responsible for supporting the retention and promotion of Black scholars here at TMU, which is that task is now embodied in the BSI, but also a way by which curricula could be diversified, and also that there be embedded training, but opportunities for teaching and learning to be enhanced, but focused on Black focused pedagogy. And here, a few years ago, this was established with the responsibility of CELT taking the lead on that. And I'm very, very happy because even before we had an understanding of what this could look like, Curtis and his team at CELT made the recommendation that this could work. And I'm very happy, and in the spirit of Ubuntu, I honor you, Curtis, for your stewardship of this work and our standing relationship, which has now seen to the second installment of the Black-Focused Pedagogy Fund, which we hope will provide the opportunity for Black focus, not just pedagogy, but or epistemology and Black intellectual thought and tradition and scholarship be embedded in TMU, and of course upholding that as making TMU the place of choice for Black intellectual thought, for Black pedagogy and scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Really appreciate it. These, as Grace had mentioned, we've been having discussions for quite a few years now, and it resulted in the development of, as you'll see on the screen here, a really comprehensive advisory committee that met regularly over the course of a full year to think deeply about how to lead this work and to try to make these grants as meaningful as possible. And so I just wanted to start by thanking all those people because they've played a huge role in this, and most of them are still at TMU. In particular, Renee Ferguson, who's a professor in the School of Social Work. She was one of the people that really led the advisory group and when she was working at our center a few years ago. So lots of folks involved in this, a lot of really in-depth and important discussion that happened to create what you will see now as we go through the grants. So as Grace-Camille mentioned, one of the things we were talking about is not just Black pedagogy, but also the mission of the BSI is around Black scholarship in particular. And as a consequence, the grants are organized in such a way to really try to drive both the scholarship of teaching and learning. So you'll see on the screen there on the left in the second bullet point, one of our goals is to contribute to the scholarship of teaching and learning that impacts Black student success across all academic disciplines. And then tying that kind of research on learning and teaching to the pedagogical approaches that we take at our university, and hopefully to be thought leaders in the country and more widely, and demonstrating the value of Black-focused pedagogy. So you'll notice at the top there, that's one of the recommendations that we would take a concerted and deliberate effort to diversify disciplines, as Grace-Camille had mentioned. And on the right side of the screen, when we're talking about what we conceptualized as Black-focused pedagogy, you'll see that it can be a huge range of things, but things like establishing opportunities with employers of color to participate in internship and co-op programs, exploring really diverse methods. There's no one pedagogical way, but diverse methods of bringing teachings about Black history and experience into the classroom, and on and on. We really don't have a rigid idea of what the projects could look like. We're hoping to be, a place where we are developing that pedagogy and that practice and that scholarship together. So that's kind of like the high level idea of where we're coming from with the grants. And so if we go to the next slide here, what are the benefits to those of you that might be interested in taking on this particular grant? There's a lot of different things that we're trying to do as a center to support you. So you'll see that grant recipients here have an opportunity, one, to focus on and highlight the critical importance of Black-focused pedagogies. But we're hoping we're also going to be creating research and mentorship opportunities for Black undergraduate and graduate students. So really, this is about capacity building across our campus as well. Supporting you with research and being able to do research on your practice and in the scholarship of teaching and learning, and then to disseminate that research as widely as we can. So again, really hoping we can support you to be a thought leader in this area. Some of the things you'll have a chance to do is present at the conference, participate with us in some of the thinking around our programming, but mainly that stuff at the top is the real core aspect of this. So if we go to the next one,
I think Zero.
yeah,
Yes.
I'll throw it over to Zara. She's the financial person on the team.
So thank you, Curtis. I'm just going to go over some of the aspects of how the grant are run. So in value, each grant can be 11,500 maximum. However, we're only going to be intaking 3 grants in the 25 to 27 cycle, 2025-2027 cycle, and then 3 grants in the 26 to 2028 cycle. The reason we're keeping such a small cohort is so that we can work together closely with the PIs and build this grant and give as much support as we can handle. So that's one of the reasons that we have such small cohorts for this. And then the duration is also dependent on how big the project is. So it's 1 to 2 years for now, from initiating the project plan until the end. Thank you.
All right, so the Black-focused pedagogy grants, the eligibility is that you have to identify as being part of the Black community, and for principal investigators, you have to be a member of the TFA faculty. Graduate students, QP instructors, they can be co-investigators on the project. Now, the selection criteria is that, it has to have an application of Black-focused pedagogies, benefits the Black community, it engages the Black students or external communities, incorporation of Black-focused knowledge, understanding of intersectional experiences, application of clear theoretical frameworks, long-term impact and sustainability, dissemination and implementation plan. And I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is where we have learned from last year. So last year was the first time that we ran the Black-Focused Pedagogy Grants, and we got a good number of applications. And people weren't successful not because they had a bad idea. It was really good ideas, but the adjudication committee felt that they fell short in certain aspects, which I'll kind of try to highlight now. So one of the big ones was that we were really looking for in that application that you talk about sustainability and scalability. And we want to know that after this grant is finished in 2 years, how is this going to continue? Do you have plans and things in place for it to be sustained? And then scalability, like let's say using an intervention in your course, can it be used in other courses, other disciplines? So those are the kind of things that we're looking for. We also found that in applications last year that some of these projects were already associated with another grant, which is fine. But what wasn't clear in the application and after some follow-ups was what exactly is the Black-Focused Pedagogy Grant going to support? So, like in the application, people would put like the full short proposal in there and not be clear about, for instance, what exactly the monies and the grant, our grant is going to support. And then when we did some follow-ups, it was to send someone to a conference, which is not exactly aligned with what the Black-Focused Pedagogy Grant wants to accomplish. So those are the kind of things that I want to be very careful about, that if you have an ongoing project that has another grant, that's fine, but we need to know what our grant is going to be supporting. So be very clear about that in the application. The other thing was that sometimes it wasn't clear how the concrete details on how you're going to implement the grant. And it was very abstract. So be a little clear about that as well. And if you are engaging with the community, we want to know what is the exact role of the community members and how are they going to be part of the project, how their voices are going to be amplified, how do they take part in focusing Black pedagogies. So these are some of the questions I want you to be thinking about. And feel free to reach out to myself and Sarah. That's what we're here for. We're here to troubleshoot these ideas. And that's why you'll see later on, you'll see that there's 2 stages in this grant. And the first stage is really to focus on your idea. And that is why we want you all to really break down these steps and figure out exactly what this grant is going to accomplish. All right, so now we actually have some projects running, so we could give you an idea of what is being done. So here are some examples. So first, we will talk about Darcy. Darcy has an amazing project. It's called A Letter to My, the Black Epistolary Project. And it's basically one of the courses that she runs, which is English 142, Black Arts, Black Power. She has students write letters in the form of like what James Baldwin do with A Letter to My Nephew. And it's really writing letters about their Black journey, their Black experiences to people that they find that it would be a very difficult conversation to have. So for example, Darcy was giving me the example of one of her students was writing a letter to her father, who they're from a biracial family, so the mother is Black, the father is white. And the father believes that there's no such thing as racism anymore. That how people talk about racism is overreacting. And that really affected her. She was writing this letter and really putting out her thoughts in it. And she's doing it using what she has learned throughout the course, throughout Darcy's course, and really trying to express herself. And the idea here is that Darcy is going to take all these letters and put them together to create an OER. So it's an open educational resource. It'll be used in her course, but it can be also used in similar Black Power courses or Black Studies minors in other universities. And students will read this and be able to share their own journeys and identify with this. So it has a lot of impact. Another project that we have with the BFPG grant is Jake's project, and he's looking at the impact or the bias of AI on Black communities. And so he has his students looking at how AI systems disproportionately affect Black communities. And he's doing it by bringing in guest lecturers. They're going into the communities. They have a Black AI racial justice hackathon. And so through that, so far, his students has been able to write about 20 proposals about how how AI and the bias of the algorithms is affecting health law, and political law, and all of these things. And although it's for law, he's also making these generalized frameworks that can be applied to other disciplines where instructors can have these kind of conversations with their students about how is AI affecting that discipline. So it's a very important piece, especially now that we know that the impact of AI in the world right now. So the overview of the BFPG application process. So the submission deadline is next Friday, January 23rd, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And in that stage, you're going to be submitting stage 1. The application form, the link is on the call for proposals on the website. And you're going to be emailing that application form to myself and Zara. Derek, if you could just pop our email addresses into the chat, just so that they have it as well. And please reach out if you're having any challenges or you have any questions or concerns. We're here to help. And as Zara was saying, it's up to 11,500 for each grant, and the grant could go from a minimum of 1 year to a maximum of 2 years. So the principal investigator, we already talked about that. The PI has to be a TFA faculty member, but co-investigators could be like QP instructors, staff, students, and so on. Now, once we finish the stage 1, and again, stage 1 was really focusing on what your idea was. Once we have identified, the adjudication committee has identified 3 or so successful candidates, we're going to be reaching out to you all to talk about how we could finalize the budget and the timeline. And so Zara has that great financial background. So she's going to be able to really work out the budget with you all. We're going to be working on the timeline, making sure that it's feasible. And the adjudication process, we're going to have members that represent the Black community at TMU. So we'll have people represented from the Black Scholarship Institute, from the Office of the Vice President for Equity, Community, and Inclusion, and there'll be members of CELT also taking part in the adjudication process. So reporting requirements, but this will depend on whether your project is a 1-year project or a 2-year project. So you want to do a midterm report, and then we want a brief summary report at the end. Now, it says video interview. Now, I would recommend that one. And don't worry, you will not be responsible for the actual video interview. We have a digital learning team who's excellent at doing that. So we will bring you in, you'll be very comfortable, we'll have a nice interview about the whole process. And also, we would like for you to share your findings at our Learning and Teaching Conference. And any work that is being published, well, we hope that you all will acknowledge that it's from the BFPG grant. So CELT supports. Again, please reach out to us. You can email me directly so that we could discuss your ideas, make sure that you're on the right track if you have any questions or concerns. And sometimes it might be a question that requires expertise that we don't have, and we'll be more than happy to direct you to the right person. So like, for instance, on our team, we have experts in experiential learning, we have experts on subtle. So we have the academic integrity office. So whatever questions and concerns you have, I think we'll be able to adjust it to the right person. And if you need any kind of technical support, budget consultations, all these kind of things, just think about this grant as there are people here who are ready to support you each step of the way. And these are just some research ethics resources that you could go and check. So if you before you carry out the research or the project, you need to get ethical approval. All right, so we're going to start the questions. It's your turn now. We have been doing a lot of talking. We're going to open it up for questions. But before we start that, I'll ask Zara just to stop the recording.